Warzone Urzikstan's first big update of 2024 has been a disaster. And I don't think I'm even sensationalizing that statement for a cool YouTube title. It genuinely was a disaster. Before the update even launched, things hadn't exactly gone smoothly for the team. Just a day after announcing the new covert exfil and weapons case features for Season 1 Reloaded, both of them ended up being pulled from the update and shifted into an LTM that would come at a later date after community feedback. So that meant less new content in the brand new update. And then shortly after that, we had another hotfix come through trying to address the MTZ interceptor, with it still being far too overpowered. And unfortunately, the hotfix didn't really change anything. In fact, I don't think it did change anything. So coming into Season 1 Reloaded, plenty of us expected a least somewhat meaningful nerf to perhaps the most frustrating meta weapon since the DMR of Verdansk. And I don't know about you guys, but I was extremely disappointed. Right at the top of the patch notes, Raven stated that adjustments to the Interceptor and the WSP Swarm were not arriving with Season 1 Reloaded, and instead they would be addressed in an update in the near future. Cue the chaos on social media. The two most overpowered weapons in the game not being addressed in the first major game update of 2024, that's not a good look. Not to mention the fact that the update did include a balance pass for a huge number of other weapons, like massive nerfs to LMGs, buffing and nerfing some ARs and SMGs to generally balance out that mid-range TTK. What you actually have now ended up with is an indirect nerf to the Interceptor and the WSP Swarm because neither of those guns were rebalanced. So right now, those weapons are the outright meta, and they vastly outperform anything else that you can use. Plus, in the patch notes, the swarm balancing only mentions medium and long-range effectiveness of the weapon. That's what they're planning to change. And that leaves me a little bit nervous, because if Raven is only planning to nerf this thing at range and not touch the 100-round mag and nerf that in some way, the insanely tight hipfire accuracy of the meta build and nerf that in some way, and the lack of recoil, maybe increasing that at close range, the weapon is still going to remain the go-to close-range SMG after that update anyway. Oh, and they nerfed the one-shot sniper bullet velocity as well, just to rub salt in my wounds. Now, I've experienced my fair share of bad updates in my time. Trust me, I used to play Battlefield every day. But I do think this one might take the top spot for worst Warzone update so far. Servers were laggy, borderline unplayable after the update dropped, and before you even managed to get into a game, loads of players were stuck in a horrible profile fetching loop that wouldn't allow them through the menus properly. Thankfully, that one has now been hotfixed, so the developers who had to stay up overnight to get that one fixed, I salute you, you're legends. Once you did make it into a game, you might then have been one of the unlucky players who accessed their loadout drop and completely bricked their game. Some people were getting their loadout crates, selecting a loadout, and suddenly the game would just start flickering madly on their screen and drop all the way down to like 4 FPS or something. The game became completely unplayable. And this wasn't just a, like, one match and it's gone kind of glitch. No, this had to be hotfixed swiftly again by the developers. So a core fundamental part of the game completely chalked for a sizable amount of the player base. Again, not a good look. And then a step beyond that, some players who were lucky enough not to experience the game-breaking flickering and low FPS, they'd find that their perks from their loadouts simply didn't equip. So sometimes they'd be at a disadvantage against other players in the lobby. Now, I must have had some serious streamer luck yesterday evening because I didn't experience any of those issues, but 3 of the teammates that I played with experienced at least one of those issues. Jaff wasn't able to take a loadout at all for the first few hours after the update because his entire game would poop its pants, and Stod and Lackey didn't have access to their perks, so that put them on the back foot. I mean, it's ridiculous. That's entire core gameplay elements just not working properly. And then we come to the really disappointing part. I know, it gets even worse. Beyond the covert exfil system and weapons case system not being present in this update, which we did already know about, they did tell us beforehand, this meant that, really, the only properly new bit of content in this update was the 2 new weapons and the Champion's Quest nuke contract. Now, thankfully, at the time of making this video, the new SMG, which was added to the Battle Pass with a series of unlock requirements, has been fixed, so you are now able to unlock it. But when the update dropped yesterday, it was completely broken, and nobody could get their hands on it. The new LMG, that one you could unlock, one of the very few parts of the update that actually worked as intended. And then 2 hours after the update dropped, with us all fighting against all of these bugs and issues, Raven announced that the Champions Quest nuke feature was being temporarily disabled due to the update not meeting their standards that they set out to deliver. So the only true new bit of content left last night to work with was the new LMG. Just one part of the first major update of Warzone in 2024 was accessible for players to get access to. That's really, really poor, and quite frankly, it's just not acceptable. Now, I should point out that the update isn't all terrible. It is pretty bad overall, but it does do some good stuff. It's not new content, but it's more the improvements that are being made to the underlying gameplay experience. So we have various buildings now across Urzikstan that have had their brightness tweaked to make visibility clearer, so you can pick out those players who might be hiding in dark corners. That's great. Performance on PC after the update, and if you weren't in a laggy server, has taken a significant uptick. My PC is now holding frames above 200 and into the 220s in some areas, which before the patch, they were dipping down into the 190s and 180s. I know that's still ridiculously high FPS, but they've gone even further. I'm now holding above 200 FPS in almost every area of Urzikstan. The game feels a lot smoother in that regard. A lot of the mantling spots and mounting spots have been fixed across the map to make interacting with them more consistent. Over 150 areas known for clipping have been solved, and over 20 known map exploits to get out of the map have now been fixed so players can't use them anymore. I experienced one of those a couple of days ago, a player hiding behind a wall with the rest of his team. That's now been fixed, which is brilliant. The buy station UI looks a lot cleaner, and it's easier to identify what items you're looking for, and the bounty contract now has a yellow, amber, red threat coloring system in the widget that appears on the left-hand side of the screen. That makes it easier for you to see that your threat is either close or further away, just at a quick glance at the side of your screen. They're good things. However, these current positives, to me, they don't make up for how bad of an update overall Season 1 Reloaded has been. Clearly, it wasn't ready to be deployed in the state it was in. There were so many unsolved issues that it shipped with, and it needed more time in the oven. Now, this isn't a new situation for Call of Duty updates either, with many in the past being pushed out in a bad state. Now, I know decisions like this aren't taken by the developers themselves, the people actually doing the work on these updates. Those decisions come from higher up, and my hope is that those people see just how bad things got this time, and that they don't push out a broken update again. Neither the hardworking developers putting their time and effort to build enjoyable experiences for the players, nor the players themselves deserve to be treated like they've been treated here. They just want to enjoy the new stuff, and I'm sure the developers want to put out a good update that works so people can play it and they can enjoy it. Neither of those things happened. Players didn't enjoy it, and the developers clearly didn't get the time they needed to make sure this update worked. So I'm really hoping the people that make these decisions look forward and don't do this again. Now, I want to finish this video by touching on something that I think is really important for the success of Warzone moving forward, and we spoke about this a little bit on my stream last night with the other guys. Warzone needs to stop being released around Christmas time each year. It's more trouble than it's worth, quite clearly. Call of Duty games launch in October or November, and a huge amount of work goes into that release. Then, just a few weeks later, an entire free-to-play segment launches with massive amounts of complexity and tie-ins to other parts of this brand new game that's just launched as well. And then it's Christmas. The teams who've made all of that stuff go on holiday, and they take a well-deserved rest, as they should. But almost every year, we see big issues with the launch of Warzone. Things not working correctly, and the reputation of the game is harmed every single time. Players end up playing a buggy, messy version of the product, and the developers either have to try and scramble a hotfix together before they take time off, or players are left with a messy version of the game until January. All the while, sentiment around the game just nosedives and descends into the usual negative spiral. A lot of these time-sensitive situations could be alleviated by changing the release window of the Warzone integration, moving it into the earlier months of the year after the main game launches, say February or March. For those of you that played Verdansk, you'll remember that Warzone didn't actually launch until March, midway through Season 2 of Modern Warfare 2019, well after the huge rush to get the game out for the end of 2019. Take that blueprint and apply it to Warzone Urzikstan, and I think not only could this entire update debacle have been avoided, but it would have allowed the team at Raven more time to bring Urzikstan to fans in a better overall shape. All of these quality of life fixes that have arrived now could have been part of the original product. All of the balancing that's having to be done to fix these broken metas, all of that could have been tested further and smoothed out so we have a more suitable, functional weapon spread at launch. I think it's time that Activision and the teams working on these huge Warzone integrations take a look at the period where they launch and move that period. March 2020 was the launch of Verdansk, the original Warzone, a good few months after the launch of Modern Warfare 2019 as a game. And we didn't have anywhere near the kinds of issues we're experiencing today, or when Urzikstan first launched last year, or when Caldera launched, or when they shoved the Cold War weapons into Verdansk and they were completely broken. There's got to be a better way to deploy Warzone, and I think it'd help almost everyone involved if things were just to shift later on. Don't launch in Christmas anymore. Launch in the new year instead. I'm really interested to hear what you think on all of this. What's your experience been so far with Season 1 Reloaded? Let me know down in the comments. I'll catch you guys soon.